It's a great financial planning strategy. You want to put a structure like this in place, which allows you to revisit it.
I take it the advice is to come and see you guys at Prime Advisory. G'day everyone, I'm Mike Tuckerman. I'm the Senior Content Writer at Hunt & Hawk, and today I'm having a quick chat with Angus Rodgers. So Angus is one of the advisors at Prime Advisory, and in 2024, he was named as one of the top 150 financial advisors in Australia. So Angus, today we're going to talk about the topic of debt recycling. So first things first, Angus, what exactly is debt recycling?
Yeah, thanks, Mike. A question we get all the time. It's a great financial planning strategy that a lot of people should be aware of, but maybe aren't necessarily aware of. But debt recycling is all about taking your non-deductible debt and over time converting it to deductible debt. What that essentially means is that you're able to claim the interest on your deductible debt as a tax deduction.
And so what's tax deductible debt versus non-tax deductible debt?
The best way to think about deductible debt versus non-deductible debt is what the purpose of the loan was for in the first place. So how you create deductible debt is all about what you do with your money, and it has to be for investment purposes to create deductible debt. So examples of deductible debt is if you go and buy an investment property, and that's an investment asset, and you're trying to generate an income from that asset, the debt or the interest repayments associated with that loan become tax deductible. Non-deductible debt is where you do not get to claim a tax deduction on the interest. And then, as most people know, you can't claim the interest repayments on your main residence. And the reason is you're not trying to generate an income from your home.
So am I reducing my debt or am I keeping it at the same level, or can I do both?
You can do both, and I think this is probably best where we share the screen and we go through a worked example, because understanding the mechanics of debt recycling can be pretty complex. So I'll go ahead and quickly share the screen, use the whiteboard to articulate a certain story. So let's have a look at someone, and as I said, it's the process of converting non-deductible debt. So you got to have non-deductible debt, which is generally speaking is your home loan, and trying to figure out a way of converting your home loan debt into deductible debt where you can claim an interest deduction on. So let's just use this person who has got a home, and they've got the value of their home is $1 million. And at the moment, this person has $500,000 of debt against their home. Now, at the moment, interest rates are at 6%. So roughly you'd be paying about $30,000 of interest every year to the bank. Non-deductible debt, you do not get to claim a deduction of that interest. Now, let's just say that this person receives a really nice cash bonus, or has employee share schemes, or has inherited some assets or investments, and they've got over on this side of the equation, they've got share portfolio worth $250,000. What you can do, and I guess this is the important part of taking this share portfolio or cash, by simply going and investing that into something else, still doesn't allow you to go and obviously claim any interest deductions on your main residence. And this is where the whole concept of recycling comes in, that allows you to mix it up a little bit. Option one, where the person keeps their home loan as is, they take their cash bonus or their inheritance and they go and invest it into a portfolio. So at the end of the day, they've really got an asset worth 1 million, debt of 500, and a portfolio of 250 grand. Debt recycling is you've got $1 million home. Instead of taking the 250 and investing it straight away down here, what we've got to do is we've got to take it and we've got to pay off a chunk of the mortgage. So we go and wipe $250,000 off the mortgage, which then allows us to go to the bank and say, hey, we've actually reduced our home loan. Can I set up a separate facility that will allow me to then go and take that money and reinvest it back into the stock market or another property? So what you do here is you take your 250, you pay your home loan down to whatever you want, and then you go and create, and let's just use the same numbers, because let's just say at most the bank will lend you up to $500,000. So you go and create another facility, which is sometimes called a line of credit, which then allows you to then go and redraw that. Think about that as like a big credit facility. You've paid off $250,000 of debt. They've then created $2,050 for you to access, and then you go and invest this into a share portfolio. So you've still got, in this example here, $500,000 of total debt. However, the interest on this part of the loan, because it's now for investment purposes, the interest on this part of the loan, which is roughly $15,000 of interest, is now tax deductible, and that interest goes as a deduction every single year in your return, reducing your assessable income, reducing tax on your bonuses, offsetting some of the gains that you'll be making on your portfolio in the future. That's the best way to think about debt recycling. If you now look at the difference between person one and person two, both have $1 million home. They both have $500,000 of debt. Both have a $250,000 portfolio, but you've converted or you've recycled $250,000 of debt, which now gives you a nice deduction every single year for as long as you've run the share portfolio. And so if you're a young investor, or if you're still going to work for another 10 or 20 years, that's $15,000 worth of deductions every single year for the next 10, 20 years. So that can compound and have a great effect. I think one of your questions was, are you increasing or are you decreasing your debt? The answer is sometimes keeping it the same. Sometimes you could pay down this 250 and you may only be comfortable drawing out 150 back into your share portfolio. So therefore, you've actually reduced your debt, $400,000, but at the same time, you've only got a share portfolio worth $150. So that's one way of reducing your total debt, but you're also your total market exposure. So I'd say that's probably less risky because you got less debt and less exposure to markets. But who's to say that if you put 250 against your home loan, and let's just say you go to the banks and you've had a pay rise or you're now earning more money, you could actually increase. So you could draw 350 from the line of credit, go on and put it over in your investment account, and now you've actually taken on more debt. So there's no right or wrong in terms of what to do and how to do it and how much money. It just comes back to sort of a risk appetite question and how much money you're prepared to put into the markets, how much you can afford to pay. But just remember that deductible debt effectively will help you potentially put yourself into a better place. And the way to think about the cost of borrowing is that even though it's at 6%, because you're getting a tax deduction on your interest, that effectively is bringing down the cost of borrowing quite a lot.
That's a great explanation. So how does someone go about setting all of this up?
Setting it up and making sure that you get it right is obviously important, because you want to put a structure like this in place which allows you to revisit it every single year. So what I mean by that is that, let's just say every year you might receive a $100,000 bonus, or you might be getting shares, or you might have surplus cash flow. You can repeat this recycling strategy every single year. So if I take you back to the whiteboard, every single year we could take a chunk of 50 grand off your home loan, increase the facility down here, and then increase your exposure here. And so over time, I guess what you're doing is you end up in a position where you've got a home, which is $1 million. You've now got $500,000 of debt, but all of this is tax deductible. And you've now got a portfolio which is worth $500,000 plus earnings over those years. So you're potentially in a better position. So thinking about the people you need to involve in this decision, if you've got a share portfolio, you're probably going to need an accountant to help you with that. A financial planner is going to give you the overall structure and advice. And then working with a mortgage broker as well, Mike, just to make sure that you've got the right mortgage facility and you're very clear in terms of making sure that the loan facilities are separate. Because at the end of the day, when you go to do your tax return, you want to literally be able to print off a statement which is separate to your main residence loan or your original loan, which has your interest repayment, and that number can flow through easily into your tax return.
And are there any other traps or specific pitfalls to watch out for?
I would say the main pitfall where people get most confused is where people have an offset account. Just simply putting your money into an offset account and then redrawing it back out of an offset account doesn't cut the mustard. The reason being is you're not actually changing or paying down any of your home loan in that instance. What you've got to be really clear about is having that capital reduction on your mortgage and then having a separate facility, which is now a new facility, which is clearly for investment purposes, not being tied up or muddied with that original loan, which is a non-deductible loan, which is the original or the nexus. That loan is for the home. It requires a bit more effort than just plonking the money in the offset account and redrawing it back out. That's your biggest trap that you can't miss, because then you haven't really converted any debt and you don't get any deductions.
So if someone's interested in debt recycling, I take it the advice is to come and see you guys at Prime Advisory?
Where we can help is obviously the mechanics of taking your bonus and paying off home loans and bringing in a mortgage broker and making sure that you set yourself up to make sure you've captured all your correct tax requirements. But I guess also you're now building another asset. You may need investment advice on how to invest that chunk of money. And especially if you're investing and you're doing this process every single year, then you're potentially building quite a nice share portfolio or quite a nice asset on the other side. And there's value in getting that managed or getting advice on how to pick that. The other component would be understanding whose name to then hold the investments in. Is it your name, Mike? Is it your partner's? Is it in joint names? Is it a family trust? There's some complexity there based on different families and how to sort of set yourself up for asset protection and tax minimisation moving forward.
Thanks very much, Angus.